So the NFL hit 3 coaches with fines for not wearing face masks. Those 3 were Kyle Shanahan, Pete Carroll, and Vic Fangio. They fined each coach for $100,000, and they fined their teams $250,000. I think this is weird. I mean, look, I've been big on the masks. I've been big on regulations, but I don't think I understand this one. I really don't. First of all, they're outside. Second of all, as far as I know, everyone is tested. So if we are to believe that every single person on that sideline was tested and every single person was negative, then why should the coaches have to wear masks? I mean, why aren't the players wearing the masks? I don't understand why. I do understand the NFL is trying to do the visibility thing. Like, this is the ultimate virtue signaling. The NFL is saying, look at us. We're wearing the mask. We're doing this. I get that. But coming down this hard on these coaches, I just don't know if I understand it. I mean, the coaches, you can do other stuff. Can't you put the coaches in a designated area where no one else can get within 6 feet of them? And they can just call the plays or whatever? I mean, I don't see the necessary reason for the coaches having to wear the masks the whole game. The players are on the sidelines. The players are not wearing masks. I don't see how the NFL can be like, we're going to find the players we're going to find the coaches for not wearing their masks, but we're also allowing 95% of the other people on the field to not wear the masks. It just doesn't make any sense to me. And the whole idea of the testing. If you told me that I was in a house with 50 people who were just tested and all 50 people were negative, I wouldn't do anything. I wouldn't even wear a mask because I would know, well, none of these people have COVID. They were tested. So either the NFL is lying about these tests and they just have no clue. So they're trying to, keep the coaches or whatever, just trying to keep the people safe. But then it's like, why are they announcing the testing results? I guess they have to for visibility, but I just don't understand why they're coming down so hard. It doesn't. It just seems like the NFL does this. We've talked about the NFL having a really hard time with rules and punishments, and going back to domestic violence and going back to marijuana. Like, some players will get an 8-game suspension for marijuana, but they'll get a 2-game suspension for beating their wife, like Floyd Mayweather beat up Conor McGregor. So I think this is a bad look for the NFL because it is more, to me, of forcing these coaches to play along with or placate this idea that the NFL is like just this moral high ground, and the NFL is doing all this stuff to protect the players and the coaches, but really they're not. And really they're just showing. It's like a farce. It's an obvious farce. It's an obvious thing. The NFL just wants you to believe it versus what it actually does. I mean, maybe I'm way off on this, but combined with the testing, combined with being outside, combined with the whole setup, I think this is wildly unfair. And you can tell by these punishments. I mean, these punishments are so beyond the pale. $100,000, $250,000 for the team. I think they said the overall fines are now over like $1 million in the first week or whatever. And it's going to be even worse because Sean Payton wasn't wearing his mask and John Gruden wasn't wearing his mask. And the coaches are allowed to pull the mask down when they're calling the plays. And then they got to pick the mask back up. But what the hell does that do? Who is the NFL actually protecting here? I think the NFL is protecting the NFL. I think the NFL is protecting the image of the NFL versus these players being protected versus these coaches being protected. It's just like the jersey swap thing. The NFL allows these players to tackle each other, pull on each other's jerseys, bleed, spit, sweat for 3 hours at a pop, but they won't allow the players to swap jerseys after the game. Even though we know that COVID is not transmitted from surfaces. So it's just another thing where the NFL is so obviously making rules just for public perception, and they're not making rules at all for actual safety or at all for actual protection. And it's embarrassing. I think a lot of the mask stuff is like that anyways. I mean, like why the hell is reporters on the sidelines who are standing by themselves, why are they wearing a mask? I don't get it. And as someone who has wore a mask, and as someone who has begged people to wear a mask, and as people who make fun of anti-maskers literally every single day, I think every podcast we do, we're making fun of an anti-masker. As someone who does that, I do think that it's more important to be doing actual procedure, actual regulations, actual protection than worrying about your perception. The mask is not a tool for perception. The mask should be a tool for protection. And the NFL now coming down this hard on these coaches and stuff, to me, it just takes all the good out of wearing a mask or all the good out of these procedures. It takes it all out, and it just makes it a show. And I think it's so embarrassing. I heard somebody who was like, "Well, Pete Carroll's 70 years old. He should be wearing a mask for his own personal protection." And it's like, dude, what are you talking about? What the hell are you talking about? He's outside. He's been tested. His team has been tested. His coaches have been tested. But what is he protecting himself from? I mean, how are we living in a place where there are cities and states or whatever where there is no regulation for outside events of less than however many people, and then these guys are in an empty-ass stadium with a sideline full of people who get tested every week, probably almost every day, and they're forcing these guys to wear a mask? I just don't get it. I think it's a bad look for the NFL. I don't agree with it.